This, everybody, is the juniper berry, and juniper berries are imposters. They are not actually berries. They look like berries, they're called berries, but they're not berries. In fact, juniper berries are not technically even a fruit. People think they are. They are used the same way fruits are used. You can make jams out of this, you can cook with these, they're used in a lot of cooking applications. They taste like a fruit. They're even dispersed the same way fruits are. The seeds inside of this fruit are spread by animals. Like birds eat these and they poop them out and they spread the same way fruits are. However, this is not a fruit. Why is it not a fruit? Well, fruits are angiosperms, okay? Juniper is a gymnosperm. What's a gymnosperm? I don't know. Now don't get me wrong, I have tried to understand what a gymnosperm is. I have tried a lot. I've watched many videos, I've read many articles, I have tried. However, every time I watch it, I just get this feeling that the person explaining it doesn't actually know what they're talking about. And I'm not going to BS you guys, like, I don't know what I am talking about gymnosperms. But here's what I understand, okay? Here's what I can gather before everything unravels and I get confused. Gymnosperms do not have flowers. Angiosperms do. So it is a different sort of reproductive cycle to make a gymnosperm compared to a angiosperm. The other thing is that gymnosperm, and this is something people like to say a lot. Anytime you read an article or somebody makes a video about it, they will break this down. So I'm going to break it down too. Gymnosperm literally means naked seed, okay? And gymnosperms very often are things where the seeds are exposed, like a pine cone. The yew berry is a gymnosperm, and the yew berry also has a seed that is exposed. So naked seed makes sense. But juniper berries, if you take a look there, the seed is not exposed. It is a berry. It looks like a berry. It's not a berry, but it looks like a berry. So that doesn't, that's where I start to get confused. I don't know what that means. And this is not the first time I've had a gymnosperm thinking it was a fruit. Ginkgo is also a gymnosperm. Don't ask me why. And also the melinjo, I had that in the Philippines. People make crackers out of those. Really good. Also looks like a fruit, not actually a fruit. So if you know what a gymnosperm is and you can explain this to me in a simple way that makes sense, please leave a comment down below. And if you don't know what a gymnosperm is, make something up. Everyone else does. Regardless to what the hell juniper is, it is treated as a fruit, so I am going to review it as such. And before I do that, I would like to give a shout out to Max. Max, thank you very much for sending this to me. Max has the TikToks and Instagrams and all of that. I've put his information down in the description below if you'd like to learn about his fruit-related adventures. Juniper berries are used for a number of different culinary applications. The biggest one is it's used to make gin. Gin is made from juniper berries. It also can be used to make jams. This was actually sent to me by Gary. Gary, thank you. A couple of years ago. I've been waiting for a reason to try it on this channel, and here we go. If you visit a well-stocked supermarket, you might find dry juniper berries. Dried juniper berries are used in cooking. Most typically, it's used in meat dishes. I think it's popular in lamb. The species of juniper that you will usually find dried at the supermarket is Juniperus communis. That is the most common juniper, as it has it in the name. This is actually a different species. This is Juniperus ashei, or something like that. And this one Max sent to me because it is supposed to have a really good flavor out of hand. But not all juniper species are like that. There are actually around 50 different juniper species, and some of them are really, really bitter and resiny. And I believe all junipers contain levels of thujone in it. And thujone is a compound where if you have a lot of it, it can make you sick. So it's best not to go and like pick random juniper berries like out in nature, because depending on your constitution and the species that you're having, it might mess you up a little bit. Saying that, let's give it a try. Huh. This takes you on a little adventure. The first flavor that I get kind of like morphs into another flavor, and then another flavor, and it kind of like changes as you're eating it. Oh, the final flavor is a little harsh, but the initial flavor is just sugar. The sweetness is maybe like a 7 out of 10. You know, it's not pure sugar, but it's pretty sweet. Then you kind of get this little fruity flavor that is a little hard to break down. I might need to try another one before I get that. But then the final flavor is really resiny. It's like you just kind of grab some pine needles and chewed on them. And a little bit bitter. A little bit more bitter than I would like. Oh, yeah, it happens again. It's like 3 levels. Sugar, fruity, resiny. I'm kind of like fighting to get that memory of the fruit flavor. So I want to say that fruity taste has a little bit of like a berry flavor, maybe like raspberry. It has a little bit of a grape flavor. You know, if you have a grape with seeds in it, those seeds can kind of have like a little bitter note to it. It's got a touch of that. And it has vanilla, bitter orange taste, like an orange Julius. So I think this particular species is, you know, popular for having more of that middle flavor and less of that final resiny flavor. You know, the resin doesn't like take you the whole way. It's only coming in at the end. So I can see that as something that you can kind of work with, but it would be difficult to eat a whole lot of these out of hand. So I'm gonna do something with these, and I think what I'm going to do is make a syrup. So I'm gonna take a bunch of these, I'm gonna cook them with a little bit of water and sugar, cook it down, strain it out, and give that a try. While those berries are cooking, let's try some of the juniper berry jam. And I'm really curious about how this is going to go. So interestingly, this is more of a syrup than a jam. So maybe what I'm doing over there is redundant. In fact, the ingredients on this are like starch, sugar, and extract. Juniper extract, not juniper fruit. So whatever, let's try it anyway. That's actually pretty mild. I can't really get the flavor of it, so let's try some just on its own. I'm just gonna stick my knife in there and try not to get this all over my shirt. It's all right, I guess. It tastes like something that you should have if you're sick. It's like herbal, like an herbal cough drop sort of note, but fairly mild, and honey taste. So it's okay. I could see maybe putting that on food. You know, I guess like people put like mint jelly on lamb. Maybe this is good on lamb. On a piece of bread though, This tastes different. That resiny bitterness is gone. When you cook it, I guess, it went away. So it's not harsh at all. The sweet taste in the beginning, definitely, because you know I've added a bunch of sugar to it. It's that middle part which is the most curious part, and I think some of that is still there. There's something orangey about it, but it's not like a citrusy sour taste. But also, maybe because I cooked it for too long or something, I'm also getting this like toasted marshmallow on a pine branch over a fire kind of taste. It also has a touch of a savory kind of taste to it. I wasn't getting it so much from the fresh berry, but I'm getting a little bit more now. So I like this, but I don't love it. Juniper is usually used in meat dishes, and that definitely makes sense to me now, because there is this sweet and savory thing going on that's kind of like this tug of war. You could go more fruity or you could go more savory, but I think you gotta like help it along a little bit. So I think if I were to do this again, I would maybe, I don't know, put like some cherry syrup in there too, or something. Like add it with other fruits to kind of add some complexity to it, this little savory element. But I think all on its own, it's a little bit too much. But I'm not done yet. There's one more thing that I would like to do, and that is play with the spices a bit. You know, this is something I've never really used. I've heard that this is something that you use on meat and you use in gin, but I never really considered buying juniper myself and playing around with it. So I'm gonna play around with it. This, as I said, is a different species than the fresh one. This is the most common one you'd be finding for spices, and it's probably not going to be as good out of hand. So I'm gonna try one out of hand just to see. And it is, you know, obviously dried out. It's not fresh, and it tastes like, I'd say that's pretty much how I remember it. I remember the juniper having like this foraged berry flavor, like a foraged raspberry or like a little bit of a grape flavor, and very sweet. This has that. And I also remember it having a harsh aftertaste, which I am right now getting. The fresh one tastes better because, you know, it's not dried out. It feels kind of weird chewing on one of these, but actually pretty similar to the fresh one, even though it's a different species and all that. So what I think would be a good way of using this is to kind of like play with the flavors that are there. And one of the flavors that is there is this piney taste, which is making me think that juniper could go well with the same sort of things that rosemary goes with. Because rosemary, also very, very piney. And what I like to do with rosemary is I like to make a vegetable roast. And movie magic, I already did it. I took a whole bunch of root vegetables and a couple other things. I cut them up into a small dice. I mixed them with olive oil and a whole bunch of juniper, more juniper than I think I probably should have used, but I want to get that flavor. Some rosemary, some black pepper, some salt. I laid it out on a baking pan and I baked it at 350 degrees, mixing it every 15 minutes until it started to get golden. And this is what we're left with. And smells really good. Smells really good. I'm not sure how this is going to taste. I've done this so many times with rosemary, but I've never done it with the juniper. So let's see if that adds something. It works. You know, despite the massive amount of juniper that I put in here, it is subtle, but I can tell it's in there. I'm getting a little bit of that sweet, fruity flavor, and I'm getting a little bit of this piney taste. And it's like a piney taste that's not exactly rosemary. So I think it's probably the juniper. And maybe a bit of like an orange rind kind of taste. It is a little bit bitter. You know, if I were to do this again, I would use a lot less than I used. I used a lot of juniper. I probably put like 2 or 3 tablespoons of juniper in here. You should probably use 1 for like the amount of vegetables that I showed you on that cutting board. Even so, it's not like overwhelming or anything. It's just like a little bit bitter. So yeah, I think juniper is something that doesn't necessarily have to be just on meat. This can work in a lot of different ways. I've tried playing with it in a savory thing, like this roast here worked really well, you know, and If you were to use this in a sweet thing, I think there's possibilities there. The drink that I made was maybe not the best example for it, but I think you could play with this and have it work. Like put it in a pie or something, especially something that you might want to use that piney flavor. Take advantage of that kind of flavor, and I think it could actually go both ways. It could be something you use for savory things and for sweet things. Juniper is a fun one. It's not an easy one, but it is a fun one to play with, and I hope you enjoyed this episode, everybody. I think that's about it. I will see you all next time. Bye-bye. I would like to give a big shout out to Smarter Every Day, Wootbot, JMac, and Schoolbird. They are mega patrons over on patreon.com. This is how I can afford to do all the things that I'm doing on this channel, so it's a big help. Thank you so much, guys. And anyone else watching who would like to support the channel and get some cool stuff in return, click the link in the description below. Another thing that you can do is buy a t-shirt. I've got them for sale over on my website, which I linked in the description below as well. Thank you so much, everybody. See you next time.